Another one, but my channel. Yes, you're watching Just Ignored Man. This week, right? It is 10:22, so now it's about 9:15. So, and yesterday I'm doing 200 games in one. All my teachers from college, high school, and middle school. So after I finish this, over to my middle school. Yeah. So this is one my college and high school teachers first. So one, we had Frank, Mr. Caliato, Miss Dawn, Mr. Chef, Miss Nessa, Miss Lonisi, Miss Cat, Mr. Amala, Mr. Roger, Miss Masamora, Miss Mia, Mrs. Mia, Yasu, Miss Yamagashi, Miss Westbrook, Miss Sue, Miss Doran, Miss Hale, Miss William, Mr. Young, Miss Jane, Miss Young Jane, Mrs. Snow, my Prince, Miss Tani, Principal down there, Miss Natsumi. And you also have Mr. Rachel, Mr. Lee, and Miss Crystal, Miss Bedford, and this and Miss Vaughn, Miss Vaughn. And you should be from Devin away. Frank grab a shovel. Miss Akaf runs away. Mr. Chef runs away. Miss Vaughn receives a tray and Ethan is the read here. I'm not reading anything. But I am gonna read like the double and the dash, so like down here. John, Mr. Hill and Miss Masamura fight for the day. Mr. Hill dibs up and retreat. Miss Nuts want to decapitate Mr. Otani with his sword. Miss Cat and Miss Nuts fight for a ring. Miss Cat dibs up and retreat. Miss Masamura stared Mr. William away from the fight, away from the cornucopia. Miss Nobu, Miss Westbrook, and Miss Khan worked there to get as many supplies as possible. You can read the rest if you want. Mr. Masui attacked Mr. Amala, but he managed to escape. Mr. Snow would divert Miss Young Shane attention and run away. Miss Nisi, Miss Sue, and Mr. Chef had to retrieve. Mr. Lee and Miss Doran set up resources. Mr. Kayak will defeat Mr. Lee in the fight but spared his life. Mr. Racer tends to Miss Westbrook wounds. Miss Masamura overheard Mr. Sumia and Mr. Hill talking to distant. Miss Cat and Miss Chun were geared for a day. Mr. Ida skill for Miss Khan while she isn't looking. One debt is Mr. Otani. Date one. Yeah.
District 3, we have the dead ones. John F. Kennedy, Jeffrey Epstein, and Jared from Jared. District 7, we have
Mr. Hill and Miss Cat tell these stories them to tell each other.
Dewey, Steve, and Alex.
Mr. Masui and Mr. Rogers rolled his hand. Miss Nesson killed Miss Fernandez while she is sleeping. Mr. Smith and Mr. Young, Miss Sue, and Mr. Amala away from his fire. Miss Shin, Miss Matsumura, and Mr. Yamagashi discussed. He went back in the morning. Mr. Ida and Mr. Kaliako sleep in shift. Frank alone he eat toxic berry, and Miss Gunn and Miss Rashford told a story about themselves to each other. Day 2. Miss Shin, Mr. Hill, Mr. Ida, and Miss Natsumi enter the tribute. Mr. Inoshi decapitate Miss Fawn, Mr. Sword.
And then finally, District 12,
Mr. Chef, Mr. William, Miss Young Shane, Mr. Yamakashi Raid, Mr. Sunita Camp Ali is hunting, Miss Rashmut Skilled from Mr. Young, while he is looking, Miss Nash and Miss Matsumi work together for a day, Mr. Matsumi overheard Mr. Snow and Miss Thorne talking in the distance, Miss Cat stopped Mr. Lee, Mr. Roger divert Miss Kaliaso since Kaliaso attention and runs away. 3 times something heard Miss Fernandez, Frank, and Miss Fawn. Night 2. Miss Respite begged for Miss Susan Killer. She refused, keeping Miss Bishop alive. Mr. Eva silently snapped Mr. Lee's net. Miss Thorne shoots an arrow into Miss Kaliako's head. Mr. Young and Mr. Kaliako's sleeping shift. Miss Sun defeat Mr. William in the fight, but spare his life. Coach Racer let Miss get into his shelter. Mr. Noshi's acting, he stepped on the landmine. Anna loses, Mr. Sumi let Mr. Roger into his shelter. Yeah. Day 3, Miss Cat stalks Miss Sue. Miss Nash and Mr. Rogers and Coach Racer tracked down and killed Miss Doran. Mr. Sumia track kills Miss Young Shane. Miss Chun Shane, Mr. Hill, and Miss Masamura Hunter tribute. Miss Khan and Mr. Kaya will work together for the day. Mission forcing Mr. William to kill Mr. Ida or Miss Nasuni. He refuses, so Mission kills him instead. 6 scan contribution Mr. Lee, Mr. Kaya, so Mr. Onishi, Miss Doran, Miss Young Chain, and Mr. William. Night 3. Coach Racer fends Mr. Yamagashi, Mr. Roger, and Mr. Matsui away from his fire. Mr. Ino, Mr. Young, Miss Sumiya, and Mr. Amala tell each other ghost stories like in the moon. Miss Ness and Miss Rash about sleeping shift. 2 other secrets sleeping in shift. How funny. Miss Cat set mission on fire with the motive. Mr. Chef already injured Miss Matsumura and leave her to die. Day 4 in the Hunger Game. Mr. Hill bashed Miss Nakasone head against several rock several times. Mr. Chef begged for Miss Cat to kill him. She refused, keeping Mr. Chef alive. Miss Ness randomly stabbed Miss Sue to death with a slice. Coach Racer and Miss Matsui split up resources. Miss Chain sprang her ankle while running away from Mr. Ida. Mr. Yamagashi revert Mr. Amada's identity and run away. You're either correct, you're not dead, so. 4 times we heard Miss Shin, Masamura, Miss Natsune, and Miss Sue. Night 4. Coach Racer steps inside Mr. Young with his sword. Miss Cat and Mr. Chef run each other and decide to truce for the night. Miss Khan and destroys Mr. Kayako's supply while he is asleep. Mr. Hill and Mr. Snow in shift. Mr. Yamagashi fed Mr. Amada, Miss Chain, and Mr. Roger away from his fire. Mr. Ida, Mr. Sumiya, and Miss Nesha discuss the game right now. Miss Russell attempts to climb a tree but falls to her death. Mr. Day 5. Miss Nestor successfully slicing Coach Racer's swords. Miss Cat pushing Miss Rotter off his ledge during the night fight. Mr. Snow overheard Mr. Ida and Mr. Neon talking distant. Mr. Chef and chasing Mr. Matsui. And Miss Khan stealed from Mr. Amala while he isn't looking. Four times we heard the distant Mr. Young, Miss Reshboat, Coach Racer, and Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, guys. Yeah. Miss Cat. Night 5. Miss Nestor and Miss Cat tell each other both. Mr. Matsumi begged for Mr. Amala to kill him. He refused Mr. Matsumi's life. Mr. Me and Mr. Hill sleep in shift. Miss Khan killed Mr. Snow with his own weapon. Mr. Chef begged Mr. Kalyaslo to kill him. She refused, keeping Mr. Chef alive. Peace. And the cornucopia is finished. I bet you a lot of you people won't. Miss Khan set Mr. Ida on fire to molded. Mr. Mala stabbed Mr. Matsui with a tree branch. And that was about it. Day 5. Mr. Sumiya kills Mr. Kaya with a sickle. Miss Chang killed Mr. Yamagashi while he is resting. Miss Nestor, Miss Khan, Mr. Mala, and Mr. Hill hunt rubbish tribute. One ignorance, one man, one society, and actually 2 mats. 5 can catch me from this Mr. Sunobu, Mr. Ida, Miss Yui, Mr. Kayako, and Mr. Yamagashi. Night 6. Mr. Sunobu and Miss Cat is still with him. Mr. Hill, Mr. Chef, and Mr. Shane are facing some to each other. That's about it. Day 7. Mr. Hill, Miss Nessa, Miss Khan, Miss Cat, and Mr. Chef hunt their tribute. Miss Chang attacked Mr. Sunil, but Mr. Amala protects him, killing Miss Chang. One can ship me from this Miss Chang. Miss Khan catches the entire off guard. Miss Khan catches Mr. Chef off guard and kills him. And Miss Cat and Miss Nasser talk about the tribute still alive. Day 8. Mr. Mia stabbed Miss Khan with a tree branch. 2 candles from each from Mr. Chef and Miss Khan. Miss Cat cannot handle this and commit suicide. Charging the rope from nightmares. Mr. Hill's over from the nightmares. Miss Mia attends to Miss Nasser wounds, and Mr. Mother thinks about home. There's not much left I can do this now. Mr. Mother chases this day 9. Mr. Samia Mr. Mother chases Mr. Hill. Mr. Mia crashes his Tennessee, and Mitten has to fall into a pit and dies. 2 times on Miss Cat and Miss Nasser. Night 9, Mr. And then they're both trashed, but they survive and win. That does make sense. They're both. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna count both them as winners. So the winners are Mr. Amala and Mr. Sumiya. And only kill each other, so yeah. I'm gonna see the placement. District 2 will be last. But District 1, there's only 2. You can see the trails 4 for Mr. Sumiya and 4 for Miss Nasser. But now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go simulate again your season. I'm gonna go to my middle school teachers. And my middle school teachers we have District 1 and District 2 and District 3. In District 1, we have Mr. Dunaway, Miss Larson, Mr. Alyon, Miss Erickson, Mr. Edwards, Miss Young, Mr. Lim, Miss Irian, and Miss Aguilar, along with Mr. Dr. R. District 2, we have Miss Asaka, Miss Chun, Miss Shiotsu, Mr. Abe, Miss Tamashiro, Mr. Grant, Mr. Shrite, Mr. Golden, Miss Parson, Mr. Lee, Miss Yersa, Miss Nobrito, Dr. Koba. We have Uncle Ben, Mr. Pong, Mr. Ivan, Miss Pom, Miss Cynthia, Miss CJ, and Henry Guzman. I had never asked them on the t-shirt. I found them on Twitter, so yeah. Attributes down in 20 of the horn sound. Number 17. For the last one, doubled and depth. Until we get to the last couple. Miss Aguilar break Miss Ears and Nose were abreast of the bread. Then we got other tributes down in 12 of the horn sound. Mr. Grant shoots near to Mr. Pond's head. Miss Chun, Mr. Alyon, Miss CJ, and Henry share everything the ladder before running. Mr. Lee and Uncle Ben fight for a bag. Uncle Ben gives up and retreat. Mr. Golan and Miss Asaka fight for a bag. Miss Asaka gives up and retreat. Mr. Abe and Miss Young fight for a bag. Miss Young gives up and retreat. Miss Cynthia and Mr. Tamashiro fight for a bag. Miss Cynthia strangles Mr. Tamashiro and straps in the run. Mr. Ivan drove George fishing right while Miss Irian jet fishing gear. Miss Erickson killed Miss Palm with a sickle. Day 1, Mr. Nobrega defeat Mr. Dono in the fight but spares his life. Miss Jesse runs away from Mr. Abe. Dr. Kuba kills Miss Young as he tries to run. Miss Aguilar and Miss Cynthia work together for a day. Miss Chen divert Mr. Edward's attention and runs away. Mr. Alyon, Mr. Ivan, Uncle Ben, and Mr. Golden enter the tribute. And that's about it for now. Ford can we heard Miss Pond, Mr. Tamashiro, Miss Pond. And then it must be the blood bat, dude. Oh yeah, Miss Erickson, I forgot. Ford can be her edition, Miss Palm, Mr. Palm, Mr. Tamashiro, Miss Palm, and Miss Young. Miss Chun, Miss Larson, Mr. Lim, Mr. Edward, and Mr. Dunaway sleep in shift. Mr. Burnett and Mr. Grant under the room. Miss Cynthia destroyed Mr. Straight's supply while she is asleep. Mr. Alyon begged for Henry to kill him. She refusing, keeping Marcus Alyon. Mr. Alyon alive. Miss Aguilar and Mr. Gordon worked together to drown Miss Asaka. Mr. Lee was able to convince Dr. R not to kill him. Day 2, Miss Erickson bleeds out due to untreated injury. Miss Larson and Mr. Chun enter the tribute. Mr. Lim scare off Miss Erickson off. Mr. Grant divert Miss Cynthia's attention and run away. Mr. Ivan reportedly stabbed Mr. Dolan to death with his sights. Miss Person runs away from Mr. Edwards. Miss Jackson bashed Miss CJ head in with a mace. 5 contributions: Miss Asaka, Mr. Lee, Mr. Erickson, Mr. Gold, Miss EJ. Night 2, Miss Shield 2 destroyed Miss Henry's supply while he is asleep. Miss Erica ambushed Miss Parson and kills her. Miss Arian, Mr. Dunaway, and Mr. Al-Young sleeping shift. They're all 6th grade teachers, so how is that funny? Miss Roberto defeat Mr. Straight in the fight but spared his life. Mr. Ivan and Miss Aguilar huddled for warmth. Dr. Kumari defeat Mr. Grant in the fight but spared his life. Mr. Edward defeat Miss Chen in the fight but spared her life. Day 3. Dr. Kuba stopped Miss Cynthia. Miss Roberta and Miss Chen untrapped tribute. Why is Miss Chen and other people hunting tribute? Mr. Grant tends to Mr. Edward wound. Mr. Allion forced Mr. Ivan to kill Dr. or Henry. He decided to kill Henry. Seeing if any that not going that fast. 2 tennis from Miss Parson and Henry. Night 3, Mr. Dunaway and Miss Aguilar tell them stories about them. Other Mr. Grant tends to Miss Chen room. Mr. Ivan that's Mr. Roberto into the shelter. Mr. Edward and Martin, Mr. Allion tell them story about themselves to each other. Miss Arson shoot an arrow into Miss Shapes's head. Miss Harrison attends to Mr. Lynn rooms. Miss Irian severely injured Uncle Ben and put him out of his misery. Day 4. Mr. Lynn begged for Mr. Dunaway to kill him. She refused and he refused Mr. Lynn alive. Miss Aylard throws a knife into Miss Cynthia's chest. Dr. Joshua chases Mr. Albe. Dr. Roar and Miss Irian split resources. Mr. Allion splayed his legs while running away from Mr. Grant. Miss Irisa died trying to escape the arena. 4 can Miss Shia 2, Uncle Ben, Miss Cynthia, and Miss Yorza. Night 4, Mr. Albe defeat Miss Irian in the fight but spares her life. Dr. Kuba and Mr. Chen talk about the tribute still alive. Mr. Dunaway, Miss Larson, Mr. Allion, Dr. R, and Mr. Grant sleep in shift. Mr. Edward stabbed Mr. Lim with a tree branch. 31. Mr. Ivan cannot handle the suicide, and Mr. Wright and Miss Aguilar talk about the tribute still alive. Day 5. Mr. Allion, Miss Aguilar, Mr. Chan, Mr. Edward, and Dr. R untrapped tribute. Mr. Grant falls into a pit and dies. Miss Larson tends to Miss Nober's rooms. Mr. Dunaway killed Miss Irian with a sickle. 4 can stop me from Mr. Lynn, Mr. Ivan, Mr. Grant, and Miss Irian. Dr. Kupla and Mr. Dunaway hold hands. Miss Arson, Mr. Allion, Mr. Strite, Mr. Sabrina, and Mr. Albe sleep in shift. Miss Chun and Miss Aguilar holds hand. Corner short shift in the trees. Rules by weapon and membered infantry. Mr. Allion shooting an arrow at Miss Larson but missed it and killed Mr. Edward then. Miss Aguilar tracked down and killed Mr. Strite. Dr. Darcy often exposed and killing Mr. Dunaway, Dr. Kuba, and Mr. Briga. Mr. Albert falls into the frozen lake and drowned. Day 6. Miss Larson, Miss Chun, Mr. Allion, Miss Aguilar, and Dr. R untrapped tribute, even though right now there isn't. 6 can talk here in addition. Mr. Edward, Mr. Wright, Mr. Dunaway, Dr. Kuba, Mr. Brigna, and Mr. Albe. No, I think we can do the rest because not that much. There's only 5 people left. Miss Larson and Mr. Dr. R run into each other and decide to Miss Chun let Miss Aguilar into herself and Mr. Allion climb a tree to rest. There's nothing I didn't realize there was that. Yeah, there is 5. Miss Aguilar, Pure Python Mountain Urine. Mr. Allion receiving exclusive from unknown sponsor. Miss Arson, Miss Chan and Dr. enter tribute. No one dead this week. Miss Chan bats and Miss Larson heads against this rebel rock several times. Mr. Allion wrote my line for Dr. receiving medal player from unknown sponsor. Aguilar easily to say where he is. Day 8, Mr. Allion self-minutes lows and killing Miss Chun, Miss Aguilar, and Dr. R. The Ford kind of stopped me from Miss Larson, Miss Chun, Miss Aguilar, and Dr. R. Let me know in Mr. Allion. Yeah, and there is one teacher, if you can tell, in both pieces. If you know who it is, tell me to down below. I'll give you the answer in the next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Oh, also I want to graduate. Miss CJ, Miss CJ, Miss Cynthia, Mr. Lee, Mr. Allion, went to a wedding that I know to the wedding to. His name is Mr. Tyler, Mr. Latia. Congratulations to him and his wife. Now they're married now, so congratulations. And he got married. I actually knew him, and she was actually my pachi. And yes, I am still watching it. Bye.